Hi, my name is Leah, and today I'm going to show you the basics of straightening wire. Straightening wire is a question we get asked all the time because whether you're making jump rings or you're making a beautiful wire wrap bracelet, you don't want your wire to have kinks and divots in it. You want it to be smooth and consistent. When you take it off of a coil, it may not necessarily be smooth and consistent. You can see I pull this piece off, and it has wiggles and squiggles all the way through it. If I'm making a bracelet, I don't necessarily want those in there because it may make my coiling, my wrapping, end up uneven. So, I would want to straighten the wire. First part of straightening the wire is you're going to want a cloth or some finger cuts to protect your hands, because when you're straightening wire, you can get friction built up and it can get pretty toasty pretty quick, and it's not very comfortable. So, I have my thumb and my finger, and I'm going to hold the coil firmly in my non-dominant hand. This is a small coil, so this works pretty well for holding on to, and I'll leave the plastic covering on because I like it not to unspring. Pull off somewhere between 6 to 12 inches of wire. You can go a little longer, but you don't want it to be longer than you can reach your arm. And if you have a piece longer than you can reach your arm, it really is going to be too unwieldy to wire wrap with anyhow. So try and keep it to a nice manageable length. So pull off the part you need, and then between your thumb and forefinger, bending the wire over your finger, firm even pressure, pull all the way to the end. You can see now that the wire curves very strongly in one direction, but there are many fewer of those little divots in it. If you do it the other direction, putting it over your finger instead of your thumb, so you curve in the opposite direction, you can see it curves in the other way, but now it is even smoother. Do this just a few times, and then pull it straight through your fingers. This takes out most of that severe curve that you were giving it, and it also shows you that, yeah, you got almost all the kinks out. You can do short strokes if you want your wire to be super straight. Say you're needing something really flat to wire wrap with. And that piece of wire is what I would call straight. You can now cut it off and use it in your pieces, or wrap directly from your spool if that's what you prefer, but now part of your wire is straight. You can use the same technique for the larger coils. It's again just pulling off what you need. You can see it's all squinky. And thumb and forefinger back and forth a few times until you feel like it's smooth. And you should be able to feel the bumps as you're striking it through your fingers. You should be able to feel the bumps through the finger cuts. And when you're able to pull it through your fingers without feeling any significant weebles, then you're probably pretty straight, and you can just straighten that piece of wire out, and you're done. You'll notice that often you get a kinky little bit at the end of your wire that doesn't really want to straighten out. This is because as you're pulling it through, this is the part that's last to leave your fingers. It doesn't have the tension of all of this still up here to help hold it straighter, so it'll end up a little squinky. I usually will just give it a little bit of a straighten with my fingers, but if it's a non-precious metal that you're working with, you can trim it if it's going to interfere with your work. And look, I have another straight piece of wire. Spoolless coils, you can also do this with. You just have to change up your technique in holding it a little bit. So I'm going to pull off the amount of wire I want. I'm going to put my fingers inside of the coil and my thumb on the outside, kind of bundling it all together, almost like brass knuckles it looks like. But I want to hold that whole spool together so it doesn't deform the rest of the coil. Because if I'm only holding it like this and I pull, you can see that one piece is pulling in, and that'll end up messing up my coil and kind of creating a bird's nest. You want to work with a little bit shorter lengths with the open spool coils because you do have that consideration. So you don't want to have too much that you're manipulating at one time. So, holding firm, passing it through my fingers, and then straightening. And ta-da! It's straight. This technique works for pretty much any kind of wire you can imagine. If you can't straighten it, it's probably memory wire, and then you're not going to be able to straighten it anyway. And that's how you straighten wire.